Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining Quicc Gains. We are here with a very, very, very special guest. We have flipped the script this week. I'm going to be interviewing the wonderful Dan Holloway. Dan, if you don't know, I'm sure is the regular host of Quicc Gains and is also the CMO at Quicc. And Dan is a video marketing expert. He's got tons of great knowledge that he's going to talk to us about today. So, Dan, we're excited to have you.
Thank you very much. It's weird being on this side of the screen. It really is.
Is
it's
it?
Odd. It makes me feel a little bit unnerved. I was like, I should be there, but I'm. Yeah.
Well, don't be nervous. We're just going to throw you the hardest questions we can think of and see how you.
Go for it.
No, we're really excited to have you. Dan and I are also today in our Quicc shirts.
Representing. Given that I always kind of throw the hard questions at team meetings, it's kind of like karmic almost, isn't it? That I'm having like hard questions thrown at me. So go ahead. I've probably got a lot to make up for.
Well, we'll start off with a softball. Tell us a little bit about your video background for those of us who don't know, and how you got involved with Quicc and do.
So the story of me. Honestly, my first real kind of like foray into video wasn't overly long ago. It's probably a couple of years now, but not, I've not been in the video world for like a decade plus, like many people. But what I have done is always been working on the tech that supports streaming content and hardware and hosting and media and that kind of stuff. So I have a very kind of distinctly hosting related and tech related background. So when I actually left school back when I was like 17 and a hell of a lot more hair ago, I went straight into work for a internet provider. So that was kind of like my first foray into the tech world. And I was like fixing people's modems and internet connections and going and installing leased lines. And, I was like the techie network engineer. And that very quickly over the years progressed into doing my own business. And I ran my own managed service provider business and hosting business for the best part of my 20s. I'm obviously skipping about a decade here, but it was just a lot of tech-related growth operations, taking businesses from growth and into scale based upon process and tech and automation and systems and all that fun stuff. So when it got to really when technology advanced to the stage where video became a real possibility for the mainstream rather than the people who could afford the bandwidth and the tech requirements that previously it needed, then that's when I got into video. So my first real foray into the video world was trying to figure out how to globally distribute video streams for kind of SMEs and corporates. And before, the world like we have now, where you just basically upload it to YouTube or to a CDN or whatever, and off you go. It was basically, how do you build CDNs? And how do you build globally distributed content networks? And I'm like, I don't know. I have to figure that out. So I had to kind of figure it out. And that, as technology evolved, became more marketing and process related and less tech, because the tech became mainstream. And that's when I ended up in the marketing world, in video marketing. So talking about that, working with that a lot, I came on the radar of Quicc and we had a conversation. I got an invite. We said, yay. I flew to Wichita. We hugged in an airport and pretty much that was it. I've been here ever since. That's a really, really short version.
Well, we're excited to dive into your tech knowledge and your video knowledge today. So I guess before we talk about some of the nitty gritties of strategy and sharing and all of that kind of stuff, let's talk about just the starter tech kit. So if you're just getting into video marketing, or if you're just you've been doing video marketing, let's just like on your Zoom, your computer and your webcam. What are some of the tools, like what do you suggest people start out with? Is it a camera and a mic? Is it a camera, a mic, and a lighting set? And what are kind of your tips for finding the right things to get started with?
So we'll jump into tech in a bit, but actually I would normally suggest you start before that. What most people don't figure out is they basically go into the video marketing world and they say, right, I need a camera or a very good webcam, I need lighting and I need sound, and what microphone do I get, and how do I do this and how do I do that? And what they don't do is that they don't start where really they should be starting, which was what's going to make me show my face on this video kind of content machine on a regular, consistent basis. So what a lot of people do is that they end up buying a camera, doing the research, getting the lighting, figuring out microphones, audio, sound isolation, sound suppression, all this like stuff. And then they sit there and they're in their studio and they think, I don't like being on camera. And it just kind of sits there gathering dust and it doesn't do anything. So why I normally suggest people start is mainly with your goals to start with. It's like, why are you doing this in the first place? Who are you helping? Who are you serving? What problem are you solving? Like typical business stuff. This is what businesses exist for, is to solve problems. And second to that is what really is your drive and motivation for showing up on camera on a consistent basis. Because the way that all of the platforms work, and psychology in general, to be fair, from a human point of view, is you need to show up consistently. And if you don't show up consistently, no camera in the world is going to help you get your message out there because no one's going to see it. So I would start there first, is figure out why you're showing up, get the drive and motivation nailed so you can actually show up on camera on a regular basis. Then actually, if I'm being honest, it doesn't really matter what camera you get. Most people, if your message is with the right people, and if who you're speaking to is your audience, then all you really need to start is a bit of natural light, like literally sit your chair in front of a window, normally in the mid-morning time, where it's not quite high noon, so it's not going to be like glary sun, but it's bright, or probably about between 2 and 4 p.m, depending on the time zone, obviously, where the light tends to be a bit softer. Sit in front of a natural light window with a decent webcam or your phone, and that's it. Like, that's pretty much all you need for a decent image. I mean, you right now, I can see, are actually sitting in front of a window.
I am sitting in front of
the natural light. Natural light's flattering, right? It's the best way to start. Most YouTubers who are really successful now, they literally had webcams or cameras or their phone perched on top of a stack of books in front of a window, and that was it. The next thing that you asked about was the audio side. Really, the audio, once you've got natural light figured out and a webcam or your phone, the next really, really important thing is audio, because audio is by far the thing that most human beings are very intolerant of if it's bad. So if you can't hear
that
really
makes
clearly,
sense. It makes a ton of sense.
it
sucks to not be able to hear anything.
Yeah, I mean, like the amount of memes there are out there about like video conference etiquette, where it's like, you online? Sorry, you're on mute. You're on mute again. You're on mute. All that kind of to and fro humor. People don't like it, And I've actually got hang on. Something like that is what they call a dynamic microphone, right? So this is a Samsung Q2U. So, I mean, the tech nerds out there, everyone has an opinion. I'll get into audio in a minute, but that is in my drawer now because I've got, I've upgraded everything over the years. But that did me for 3 years, I think. I didn't change my audio at all. It used to sit like where this one is right now. That is about $40, something like that. It's like really, really cheap. And then it plugs in via USB, so you don't need any kind of like techie,
So it's a
complicated stuff. Yeah. I would literally sit there with my Mac on a stack of books with a built-in webcam, that plugged into USB, and that was me for, yeah, probably two or 3 years at least, just with that setup. I then upgraded my camera to it was a Logitech C920, which again is still pretty much like the staple for most content creators out there. It's a pretty solid bit of kit. And that microphone and that webcam did me until I upgraded my studio and everything to what you see now, as I became much more kind of like mainstream, and I really kind of like wanted to level up the game. But when you're starting out, certainly in the first couple of years, you don't need any of the stuff that I've got now. Arguably, I don't need it now. It's just I kind of wanted it, so I bought it.
Right. And I think that what you're saying about, you have to be somewhere that's comfortable. You have to be somewhere where you can do it consistently. And with video, I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, a big part of it is authenticity. And so if you don't feel comfortable and you're screwing around with your microphone or screwing around with your camera or nervous about your lighting, a lot of times that kind of comes through, in the videos that you're putting out.
And it is about confidence a lot of the time, and it's like I said, if you're not clear on the drive and the motivation that's going to make you show up, that drive and motivation also has the opposite as well, in that if people say hate on you, if you get trolled, if your message doesn't quite sit right with your audience, then that drive and that motivation are the things that are going to make you think, screw it, I don't care. At least I'm helping the people who I want to help. Everyone else can do one. It's that drive and motivation to show up that's going to definitely help you through.
And most people have to kind of tap into that, I think, because there's like this idea that you're going to put your first video out and it's going to go viral and you're going to get 1 million, likes and successes. And it really does. It takes, it takes that. It takes being consistent and knowing who your audience is and getting feedback, and sometimes getting bad feedback and, or helpful feedback to improve, to keep going. So
if you actually look at the numbers on that, so that's actually a really interesting point that you bring up, because if you look at the number, and I can't remember the life of me the data off the top of my head, but generally speaking, and it depends on your platform, obviously, if you actually look at the data, the people who show up once and expect a video to go viral, or the people out there, kind of like snake oil salespeople, who will sell you this program or this course or whatever that promises to get you to create viral content, the fact that that's actually highly, highly unlikely to happen is backed up by the data that not many people know. So if you look at the numbers, if you say, for instance, have a Facebook page, for example, organic reach on a Facebook page is, even if you have a very active page, it's less than 5% of your audience sees that content. Realistically, it's between 1 to 3%, if you're lucky, see that content. So even if you've got 1,000 people who are active in your audience, let's say 1% of those people are actually going to see a video that you put out there. If you look at YouTube, then the algorithm way it works is most creators, and when I say most, I mean like the vast majority, you don't tend to get picked up in algorithm or put into suggested until the algorithm knows what content you're creating on a regular basis. So to do that, it needs between 20 to 50 videos before it even really kind of starts to understand what the content is that you're creating and who's consuming it and at what time and countries they're consuming it in and so on. So, and every other platform is pretty much the same. So the concept or the idea that you can create a couple of videos that are going to go viral off the bat is so unlikely to happen, because the way the algorithms work is that you need to do so much more content, like 25 to 50 videos in YouTube's case, or daily videos on Facebook to kind of ramp up that 1 to 3% before you even get in front of the audience you're trying to reach. So it's all about consistently showing up over time in the same place, in the same way,
For starting
on the same platforms. So you dropped off then.
And so for someone, oh no, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So for someone just starting off, it's really about consistency. Do you think it's about volume too? Like, would you suggest if you've got a volume of 10 videos, do you upload all 10, the day that you've got them ready, or is it better to kind of pace them out over time and
definitely pace out over time,
try them across different platforms, make them different length? Yeah.
So if you think about how an audience consumes content, so let's say the Quicc Gains show right now. So we do content every week. So every week, the algorithm is getting to know and understand that every week we put out a video. And every week that video goes out at 10 a.m. CST on a Wednesday consistently. And people show up, and it's a consistent thing. It's a timely thing. So it knows that the people who tuned in 3 weeks ago and the same people who tuned in 2 weeks ago and last week, chances are that they're going to want to tune in this week. So it's going to start showing that content to those people this week and next week and the week after and so on. And it builds up that kind of regularity, and it builds in the data that the algorithm needs. Because let's face it, the algorithms themselves, the way they work is that, social media platforms aren't social media platforms. They're advertising platforms. That's what they're there for. An algorithm isn't designed to show the right content to people who can be interested in it. The algorithm is designed to show the content to an audience that's going to maintain that audience's attention onto the platform for a longer period of time, and in turn serve those people adverts. That's what it's designed to do. So the more that data that algorithm gets, the more it's able to serve content to an audience and retain that audience on the platform for. So it's all that consistent action that algorithms need to build up that profile over time, to allow it to do its thing. And
so I know that works for, YouTube, it works for Facebook, it works for LinkedIn. And you've seen all these things recently about, you should post your video directly to Facebook videos and post your videos directly to YouTube because the platform. Is that how you would suggest doing it? Or I know it's kind of the old school way to link out to your YouTube videos. What have you seen people do, and what do you suggest for someone just getting started?
So again, think of it like the platforms being advertising platforms. So if you went into an advertising company's office and said, that's really interesting, that thing I'm reading there, and you say to everyone else in the waiting room, go over here to the competitor next door and read that other piece of content because that's really interesting too, that first company are going to basically ban you. They don't want you to do that. So there's many people out there who say, put the link to a YouTube video in your Facebook posts or your LinkedIn posts. Facebook and LinkedIn are going to give that post pretty much no organic reach whatsoever, because all it's going to do is take that audience from Facebook over to the other platforms and away from them, which means that their watch time goes down, their viewing goes down, their audience retention goes down, and they can't serve all adverts to that audience. So they're not going to reward you for that. When you're repurposing and we'll talk about that for a second, the best way to repurpose is to keep in mind what the algorithm's intent is on the platform that you're wanting to grow. So on YouTube, it's essentially watch time on the channel and session time on the YouTube platform as a whole. So binge-worthy content is basically the name of the game. You know, the amount of content you can create that someone will watch one video, then another video, then another video, and so on, means that the more pre-roll and I can't remember what they call it now, the adverts in the middle of the videos, it can show that audience. That's the name of the game. On LinkedIn, it's all about engagement, because LinkedIn's more of an engagement-based platform. It's basically like Facebook 2013. So it's all about getting the likes and getting the clicks and getting the comments. You know, it's doing LinkedIn Live now, but that's basically still in beta. So it's all about engagement. Facebook is a little bit more advanced. It's a bit more advanced in the video now. They're all about engagement on live video, because they know live video creates more engagement with the audience. They stay on their session time is longer and so on. So it's all about creating engaging live content backed up with communities, which is why they're putting groups like front and center. So live video content or workshops within Facebook groups will probably get you the most reach at the moment. Obviously that's going to change as things kind of move on, but certainly groups linked with live video is right now the name of the game on Facebook. Pinterest is going towards more video, but ultimately Pinterest is a search engine, and it's all about the really kind of giving interesting content to an audience, again, on a consistent basis. But that's all about building a library of content that's engaging to an audience, but it's all about the clicks that content gets. So if anything, Pinterest is almost wanting you to get people to click through to content outside of its platform, because it's a search engine first and foremost. But they're, again, dabbling with more videos, so that's probably going to change at some point as well. So really, it's all about understanding what the intent is of the algorithm on the platform. And once you figure that out, it actually becomes really easy to know what kind of content to create, to not so much game it, but to give the algorithm what it wants, and in turn get what you need from it. That was a really long answer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's really no, that's a great answer, and I think you gave a lot of really good tips on what to do on the different platforms and what everyone's looking for. I guess the follow-up question to it is, so are you creating a new video for each platform, or is there something you can do? Is it worth spending time in editing to kind of take the content that you're already creating and kind of slice and dice it to work with each platform?
So I'm going to avoid saying it depends, but it kind of depends. It kind of depends in that if your intent and your goal is to create content that's going to nurture a long tail audience, let's say, so say you're wanting to build a community, for example, then the content you create will be a lot of value workshops, storytelling, nurturing. There'll be a lot of content to generate inter-community communication and collaboration. So the kind of content you create there, by its nature, will need to be a little bit unique, because each platform, it needs that kind of not rinse and repeat style content, because you're basically dealing with community building. If it's more educating an audience towards, say, buying a digital course or a program or something like that, where it's less of that nurture and less of that community collaboration, and it's more giving of knowledge, then in that case, there's very little point in duplicating your efforts. So, like, say if we're doing a live here, if we're live. Ta-da! So on the live here, much of what I've said on my own YouTube channel, for example, I could do a live, or we can do one here, and we're doing the same thing within Quicc as well. many of the answers that I'm giving, we could literally slice and dice that answer out of this live, put a couple of overlays on it, just kind of spruce up the video or whatever, tweak. And that one piece of content could be its own standalone YouTube video, a how to do blah, or, what is the difference between X and Y, that kind of thing. And you can have that within YouTube. You could do a similar thing where if you look at LinkedIn video, so not live video, but natively uploaded video, then LinkedIn's, again, you need to kind of understand the intricacies between each platform. But LinkedIn itself, when you upload native video, videos have to be no more than 10 minutes in length. Now, the amount of people who actually watch a 10-minute video on LinkedIn is very, very, very few. If you look at the numbers, a 5-minute video gets watched in its entirety twice as many times as a 10-minute video. A 3-minute video is twice as many times as a 5-minute, a 90-second video twice as many times as a 3-minute, and so on. So really the sweet spot is a video that is between 60 and 90 seconds long on LinkedIn. Funny enough, videos between 15 seconds and 60 seconds are what platforms like TikTok and Instagram Reels and so on actually put on their stories. So you can create a, say, 4-minute video, like a how-to video on YouTube. You can do a teaser of that same video, again, just slice out a little chunk of it and stick it on a 15-second Instagram story, a 30-second TikTok, a 60-second kind of split Instagram reel, however you want to do it. You can put the same 90-second chunk out on LinkedIn and upload that as a native video. And your call to action in all of those pieces of content could be, click the link in the bio to watch the full video, or swipe up to watch the full video, click the link in the comments. Comments are okay on LinkedIn, not the post itself, but in the comments is good, to watch the full video, and so on. So you're driving all of that audience and all that traffic into your YouTube channel. That's how you basically grow your YouTube channel. If you want to grow a different platform, then it would be a slightly different call to action. Would be, head over to this URL instead, and watch the full piece of content on IGTV or on LinkedIn Live, whatever it is. It's just all about repurposing one piece of content in multiple ways to drive the traffic that content creates back to one point. So it's essentially a funnel that you're creating of traffic flow. That's basically what we're talking about here. It's just generating as much content as you can, and then just tunneling all that down to one channel, which is a primary channel you want to grow and nurture.
Yeah, and we kind of talked about this last week, and I think a lot of people probably, it's because there's not a button you can click or anything. It's sometimes hard to say, like, where should this person go? And so I think that's really good advice for how to slice and dice and to still get people back to one key source. And especially if you're creating, multiple pieces of content on, the same topic area, there's also opportunities to, say, oh, want to learn more about this. By the way, we've got more content on it and more videos and more whatever it may be. So I think, that's really great advice for people who, are trying to figure out, how do I actually monetize my videos? How do I turn the traffic that's watching my videos into leads, et cetera?
And I'm actually quite glad you mentioned the term leads there, because two concepts that many people don't really get. I know you do, because, we work on it all the time. But when you're actually creating content, a lot of the time, people put content out there that's kind of the content they want to create, or they put content out there that's answering questions that a little bit of research has said that people are looking for. What they don't necessarily do is put out content that is aimed at both helping people, but also it's aimed at the the buyer's position in that buyer's journey. So in many ways, people, the way I look at it, people tend to be in one of three different positions in terms of a buying cycle. They tend to either be pain aware, which means they're acutely aware of the pain that they're in, but they have no idea where it's coming from and why. They are problem aware, i.e. they're aware of the pain and they know what the problem is that's causing that pain, and they don't really, they kind of know roughly what the answer is, but they haven't really found someone to help them with it. And then you've got someone who's solution aware, which is people who are aware of the pain, they're aware of the problem, they know what the answer is to that problem, and they're just looking for someone who can give them that solution. So, I mean, in terms of, like, say, with Quicc as an example, people who are pain aware are people who know that they don't get a huge amount of reach on their content, and they don't really know why, and it's doing their head in. So they're pain aware. People who are problem aware know that they don't get a huge amount of reach on their content. They know that if they captioned their content, then they would be able to increase that reach on their content. People are solution aware, know the pain, they know the problem, and they know need to caption content, and they know that caption providers exist to help them with that content and that captioning to increase their audience and everything else. And they just need to find someone to help them with it. So when you're creating content, it's great to actually create content for people in each of those three different buckets, so that you are nurturing and educating the people who don't really know that the solution exists. You're educating the how to do it to the people who know it exists but just want help with it. And you're literally just offering a buy button for the people who know what it is, know how to do it, and they just want to do it. Because if you try and sell someone something that they're not ready for, they're not going to care. And if you try and nurture someone,
and so
go on.
I think we got. Oh no, I think I cut you off. No, but keep going. I think that where you were going with it was really good.
Sorry, yeah. So, yeah, and the last point is if you try and sell someone something that, where was I going with that? Right. So if you try and sell someone something that they're not aware of before they're aware of whether they need it or want it, then it's going to put them right off. But equally, on the other end of that scale, if you try to nurture and educate someone on something that they already know that they want and they just want to buy it, they're just going to go elsewhere because they don't want to jump through hoops to get what they already want. So understanding at what point in the buyer cycle that person is really, really important. And when you create content, it's really good to create content for each of those three pieces or segments of your audience and segment them accordingly, because the people who are ready to buy will buy right now. The people who aren't quite ready to buy will buy within 30 to 90 days on average, give or take. And the people who aren't really aware of what you do or how you can help them, but are willing to educate themselves, they're going to buy at some point in the next 3 to 6 months, possibly 12 months, depending on the complexity of your service. So that all those three different pieces or pillars of content, all that's doing is creating a long tail funnel of leads, and the leads, they will turn into your prospects, and the prospects then convert into sales. Ta-da! That's kind of how it all works.
And so when you're doing a video, what's the call to action? How do you either move people through the funnel from discovering the pain to the solution, or from the solution to the buy? Is it go to my website? Is it contact me here? Is it watch my next video? And do they change as you move throughout the funnel?
Yeah, so it will depend on what point of the funnel they're in. If they are in the education stage, then sending them straight to a buy button is just going to put them off, because they're going to be like, who are you? No. And they'll just like delete, block, hate that person trying to sell to me. Who the hell do they think they are? So if you put out a piece of content that says something like, I don't know. I'm going to think off the top of my head here. So this is a bad example. Don't blame me. So if someone says, how the hell do I increase the reach of my videos, or how do I get more people watching my videos? Then if that's the term that people are searching for, or the term that they've got going around in their heads, and you create a piece of content that says, if you want to know how to increase the reach of your video content, then did you know that over 80% of videos are actually watched with the sound off? You can tell that we say that term quite a lot in Quicc, because we do. If you want to know how to tap into that audience that right now you're losing, click here and learn how. And that will lead you towards, a video or an email sequence or whatever it may be, to educate people as to how they can increase the reach of their content. That kind of content piece would be great for someone who is at the early stage of the funnel, who are just needing educating towards what the solution is to the problem that they're feeling. Equally, if it's someone who you've identified as already kind of dabbling in the captioning world, but they're doing it like the really, really long-winded way right now, which takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. If they're doing it manually in Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere or something like that, or if they're using one of the other providers similar to Quicc, obviously they're not as good as Quicc, clearly. But if, they just happen to be using someone else, shame on them, then you could put out a piece of content that just says, do you want to not only reduce the amount of time it takes for you to put captioning on your videos, do it all within a web-based app and have it branded and have it, on brand, on target, very similarly, colored or stylized to the rest of your branded content. We can do that for you. Sign up here for a free trial. And for those people, it'll be like, ooh, so I already caption. I want to save time. I want to do branded captioning. I want to have it on brand. My marketing team will get off my back if I can do that. That'll be awesome. And I get a free trial. Happy days. And that turns into a sign up. If I sent that person a nurturing email first, explaining what captioning is in the first instance, they would probably start reading it, yawn, and then not read the rest. So it's all about that segmentation that is key.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So going kind of back to the algorithms, and this is not going to be a shameless plug, it's going to sound like it, but talk a little about things like SRT files and captioning and the descriptions under YouTube and all of that kind of stuff, and how that plays into video engagement and why it's important.
So, this has two aspects to it. There's the aspect which is the algorithm, but there's also the aspect which is the audience as well. And again, a lot of people who are very tactically focused, that's the word, isn't it? Focused, who are very tactically focused, they will look at captioning and say, right, I want more audience. I'm going to caption my content so people can read my video narrative at the same time as watching it. That'll be good. And they just see the audience as a number. And in some ways, that's not a bad way of looking at it, because an audience in some ways is a number, and getting the algorithms to be able to index, and I'll talk about that in a second, like index content is a good thing. But on the flip side, we at Quicc, we have a number of times, and fairly on a regular basis. I mean, I get them personally. I'm not sure if you have yet because you're fairly new to the team, but if you haven't, you will get messages from people who are hard of hearing, for example, thanking us for captioning our content. And I get that quite often. My wife is friends with a couple of people in the hard of hearing community. One of them is a sign language translator for, kind of government officials and the European Union, various other things. And there's a lot of people within our circle of friends who are hard of hearing or just absolutely deaf. And, they really struggle not being able to consume content. even when they went through university, they found it really hard consuming content because not very much content is captioned. So they're watching video content, trying to lip read, and they're kind of constantly rewinding and watching, or they have to pay for that content to be captioned for them on the off chance that there's something they actually want to consume. And it's really difficult for them from an accessibility point of view. So there's that part. It's thinking of your audience less as a number and more as a human being. And even if they're not hard of hearing, or if accessibility isn't an issue, then, I mean, say in London, for example, prior to the COVID madness, it's a very common thing to be sat on the train for anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half a day each way on your morning commute into the office when we went into offices. So the amount of time of people in London, just as an example, who watch content are kind of surrounded by loud noises with the headphones plugged in, and even with headphones plugged in, it's often very noisy on the trains or public transport. Having it captioned is actually a really helpful thing. So again, think of people as humans is a good thing, because we're not all sat in quiet rooms with the headphones plugged in where we can look at our screens and be like, oh, great, I can read it, do all the captions. There's normally a reason why someone wants to read captions. So separate to that, the other side of things that you mentioned was algorithms. Now, an algorithm, like I said before, it's all about making sure that algorithm knows how it can serve content to the right people. So how does an algorithm know how to serve video content to the right people if it doesn't know what content is in that video? So there's a lot of people out there who say, YouTube, it doesn't really need to know what's in the content. It just focuses on titles and descriptions and that's it. I personally don't believe that. I mean, no one really knows what the algorithms do actually do and what they're structured like. It's like a really closely guarded secret. But the fact that YouTube, as an example, and Facebook's doing the same thing now, will automatically caption, not to a very accurate degree, but it will caption it accurately enough, all of the video content that goes through its platform, says to me that if they're not using that right now to index your content, they're going to be pretty soon. And what captioning will allow them to do is it will basically take the SRT file. So the SRT file, to answer the other part of the question, is a file that is generated from the captioning process. So when you process a video, it creates a text file. In that text file, it will go through to the millisecond and timestamp every single line, and will be broken up by timestamp. So, this phrase or these words were said at this, between this millisecond and this millisecond, or this second, 1 point whatever seconds and 2 point whatever seconds was this phrase, and so on. And it will create this text file. So you can actually scroll through all of that and find exactly what was said where in the actual video and take you to that exact point in that video. So in YouTube and in Google search these days, if you actually put a video up on YouTube and you put timestamps within the description, what you'll find in search engine optimization now is that if you type in a specific phrase into Google, so not YouTube, actually into Google search, how to do whatever, then if you had timestamps in your videos now on your YouTube content, then Google will present the search results of that specific timestamp in that video that you uploaded. So if you said, how to add captions to a video on Instagram, and that question was asked 3 minutes into a 12-minute video that you put up on YouTube, then the search results will present that answer. And when you click play, it will take you to the 3-minute mark of that video. And it's all very, very, very well done, obviously, because it's Google. But Facebook is no different. Facebook is doing exactly the same thing. It's all about knowing what content's out there, what content people are producing, and then how to present that content in front of the eyeballs of people who are looking for it. That's a really long answer again, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it was a great answer. And I think it's really key. And for us as creators or as people putting out videos, I mean, it almost is, it can be a little bit helpful because you're helping people, you know, if you have a 10-minute video or a 12-minute video and you know that people aren't going to watch the whole thing, you know, if it can help people find the part of your video that they're really looking for, and that can be the hook or the gets them to watch the bit, or just to say that was a really valuable source of information. I'm going to keep going back there. And
exactly,
you know, that really is what, you know, one of the things that you want to get out of it. So
I mean, there's a tactic on YouTube as well that, again, not many people teach this. I think some people actually pay or put it into their paid programs as like, you know, secret sauce or something. It's not that secret because everyone talks about it.
right.
But if you look at YouTube cards, and again, I think this is something that Facebook and LinkedIn are probably going to be dabbling with as well. It basically, when you watch a video, up in the top right hand corner, a little kind of like piece of text will come up that has like a, you know, click here to learn about blah, you know, whatever it is, and that's called YouTube cards. So a lot of people think, oh, cards are pointless. Actually, they're not. Because if you know how to use them, like you say, if you went to a piece of video content looking for an answer to something, and you look in your analytics, and on that video, you know, if you look at the graph, if not very much is watched between this segment, loads is watched in this segment, you know, the graph's like up here in terms of views, and not very much over here. So sorry, over there. I'm fucking mirroring myself. Then where there's a peak is where you want to focus on creating more content that's really valuable like that. And where it drops off is where you actually put a card. So about 5 to 10 seconds before the significant drop off on videos, you put a YouTube card in there to send them through to one of your other videos. Because the idea being, if say 60% of your audience is dropping off at that point, and you offer a card to them to go and look at something else that vaguely resembles or is, you know, relevant along the same content lines, then a proportion of that 60% are likely going to be going to that next video, and you retain them on the platform for longer. But it's all through cards. If they're going to drop off, they might as well drop off to another piece of your video library or another piece of content that you've created that can help to further nurture them.
Yeah, I've always used cards just because they're there, and I figured why wouldn't you use them, and kind of tried to place them where you know, I'm either addressing another question or giving a definition of something or something like that. But I like that. If you know, you don't want to send people away at the high point of the video, people watching, but if people are going to drop off, you should, I mean, it makes sense that you would give them another option of where to go to. So I think that's a really good, you know, tip.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, if you look at, I mean, we talk about YouTube, but again, the same thing applies to the other platforms as well. If you have content, and all the platforms give you analytics, you know, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, you know, you'll be able to see the analytics of your content. So if a post on LinkedIn gets a huge number of views, and you do another post that's vaguely similar that gets a huge number of views, chances are that if you put another piece of content out there, it's probably going to get a huge amount of views. Excuse me. And at the same time, if you create, say, a YouTube video that doesn't really get that much many views, or the retention isn't that great, but you do another YouTube video that has really good retention and it gets a lot of views, then creating another piece of content along the same lines will just build your credibility within the eyes of the algorithm in that content piece. And the algorithm will know that, okay, this piece of content over here got a huge amount of watch time, really good engagement. they've got another piece of content that did another lot of engagement, another lot of watch time. That's good. You create another piece of content that does a similar thing or on similar topics. It's just going to drive more views to that third piece and so on exponentially over time. Same thing goes for LinkedIn. If you're using, I don't know, say LinkedIn hashtags and your content gets shown within a certain hashtag, X amount of times, and you have that engagement level on a consistent basis on those hashtags week after week, day after day, or whatever, then it's just going to show that content to more people when you present more content to it. So again, it's all about that consistency, but it's about knowing what performs well, not what you think performs well, but what actually does perform well, and just doubling down on that.
So it'll be kind of last big topics. I know we're kind of getting up to the hour, but for people, again, who are just getting started, who don't know what will perform well, what kind of content, where do you suggest they start?
I'm going to be slightly contrarian here, in that many times people basically buy into the person that's presenting the content far more than they do the content itself. So there are huge amounts of examples out there, and it's quite scary for some people to get their head around this, especially when you're running your own business as well. It's kind of a bit weird. But one of the examples I consumed recently on this was it was a video that Daryl Eves put out. And if you don't know who he is, he's a really well-known YouTube strategist and creator. He's got like billions of views under his belt for between him and his audience and his clients. So he kind of knows his stuff when it comes to this. And one of the clients that he had, he was helping them to increase, I think it was a real estate business. I can't remember what state they were in, but this lady was all about real estate, and she was growing a YouTube channel to basically grow her real estate business. But the video that actually ended up doing really well on her channel was a fairly old video, which was basically how to deal with dogs that pee on carpets. So she created what she refers to as the dog pee video. And that got a huge amount of reach. And he said to her, I know you want to be known for real estate, but trust me, make another video about dog pee. And she was like, what? What? No, I'm not going to do that. And he goes, trust me, just do it. You can put a slight kind of real estate twist on it, but make another video about dealing with dog pee. And she was like, okay. And she kind of trusted him, and she did it, and put another video out there. And then I think another one, again, with a slightly kind of more real estate-y twist with the third video and so on. But because that was what the audience was engaging with on a human level, her channel ended up growing, and portions of that channel growth were interested in the real estate services that she was offering as well. And her business basically took off. And there's so many more other examples. There's I think Rachel Pedersen, I think her name is. She's on TikTok, and she's got like hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok. Most of the videos she creates is about like, mum life, dancing videos, kind of stretch marks over the age of 30 or 40 or however old she is, after multiple children. She does that kind of stuff, speaking to a mum's audience. But she runs an agency helping people to grow on social media, TikTok included. And she grows her audience like that. But most of the content she puts out there are dancing videos or, nurturing kind of mum tips and things like that. So I think to answer your question, it was a long-winded way of saying it. If you're connecting with someone on a human level, that is far better than trying to sell them something that you want to sell them. Because when someone goes back to that old thing of, knowing, liking, and trusting. So if they know you, they like you, they trust you, and happy days. And I think from my perspective, if you couple that with what I do in my business as well, because you and I, we're contractors and we have other interests as well as Quicc. My other business is actually called Authority and Status. And I named it that purely because if you connect with someone on a human level, and and this applies to every business, Quicc included, if you have authority within your market and if you have like status within the eyes of your audience in terms of your business, that's basically all you need to have trust, and that's all they need to buy from you. So the question becomes, how do you build authority in your market and build status within the eyes of your audience? And often that becomes down to the know, like, and trust factor, which is connecting with someone on a human level. And, if you're a plumber or a dentist or whatever, are people going to want to talk about push fit plastic joints or, the latest ultrasonic drill thing? They're probably not. They probably are going to be interested in the golfing tips that you just learned from your next door neighbor on your evening out, which you went to after finishing early at your dentist's office, or after you finished a job on a local mansion using push fit joints. But people connect on that human level far before they do on a business transactional level.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And one of the things I kind of tell people is what you would talk to people about in real life is kind of what should start, where you can, one of the ways is if a dentist office, I've never had a dentist talk to me about any type of, it's never about anything that granular. It's always about, kind of more broad based things.
Yeah.
So,
but some of the content I put out there it's dad stuff. It's, it's funny things that my children do. The fact that my daughter just started her big girl nursery. It's a nursery in the school that she's going to be transitioning into. And the fact that it took 2 days for her to get naked in the studio because she just took her clothes off. She just starts running around the playground naked. I find that hilarious. But I can talk about that. But then you'd know about me that I do marketing. Yeah, but I also have a daughter who likes to get naked, who's 3. It's people will connect with me on an emotional level as a result of that. I talk about things like being bullied when I was at school. I bring up that every now and again, and people can relate with me on that level. We can get a bit serious about things and talk about kind of demons from our childhood. You can talk about all sorts of stuff that doesn't have to be business related, and people connect with you as a result of it.
Well, yeah, no, that's definitely lets people connect with you on a person to person basis, and yeah, I love it. I think that it's been really good. So we typically keep the show to an hour. You know this. We typically wrap up with words of wisdom. Dan Holloway, what are your words of wisdom for this week?
Never eat yellow snow. I'm kidding. If Mike's watching this, who's our CEO, he's probably just going to be like, oh my God, why did we invite him? But no one said that. Everyone keeps giving serious answers. I'm just waiting for someone to give a non-serious answer. So I'm the first to give a non-serious answer, by the way. So words of wisdom. I would say we haven't even talked about strategies and tactics and, kind of operational efficiencies and things like that. But my words of wisdom would actually be to be very careful about the time that you spend doing things to grow your personal brand or your business, because quite often the internet out there is filled with false promises, and it's filled with promises of quick wins, and it's filled with this expectation you have to be, a well-known influencer type, well understood, polished brand, and all this kind of like vanity. And really what it comes down to is to grow a business is literally you do the things that work and that have worked consistently over millennia, which is basically be nice to people, don't abuse people, don't try and cheat people, just speak to a human like a human, build a relationship, and if they have a problem that you can solve it in the best way you know how. And everything else around that's promised as a shortcut, most of the time doesn't work. And you spend so much time trying to chase down that rabbit hole of a quick win that if you had have just spent that same amount of time focusing on being nice, helping people, solving problems, and not trying to get a quick win, you'd be far, far, far further forward than you are. That got deep for a second, didn't it?
No, I love it. I think that's, great advice. I think it's really easy to chase the rabbits and, great Wednesday words of wisdom to take us through the week and get us wrapped up.
And don't eat yellow snow.
And don't eat yellow snow. We'll have to have you back to do video editing too for all the strategy and operation stuff.
Strategies, tactics, operations, difference between static and dynamic problems and resolutions. We can jump into all that as well at some point. That's a whole different ballpark.
That's right.
Ball game. Can of worms. Whatever the energies are.
All right. Dan Holloway, thank you for coming on. It wasn't too bad, I hope.
No, you're a very good host. I liked it. You can do more of these.
It was good having you on the other side of the...
It still feels weird. It really does.
Oh, man.
Your internet's hung again. Should we sign off? Call it a day?
Yeah, let's go ahead. You can tell the clouds moved in, I feel like, because I've got all this dark shadow coming in around me.
That's all right.
The one downside of sitting in front of those, you can't quite control the sun.
That's right. I have a huge light source right there. Just
that's right.
Covering everything. So that was this week's Quicc Gains with the guest of me and our first time presenter on the Quicc Gains, Claire Tilmont. Ta-da! I have to strip myself back now. Oh, that feels so much better. Back to the way it should be. Right. So next week we are joined by
next week on Quicc
secret gift.
Dan takes back over.
Am I coming back next week? What? Okay. No. I can do that. I don't mind. We can bump an influencer. They can do the week after. It's fine. But thank you for joining, everyone, whether you're catching live on the replay. Any questions you have for us or for me or for Claire or for Quicc as a whole, let us know. Just stick them in the comments and have a good week. Day, evening, whatever time of day it is where you are. Claire, it's been a pleasure, as always. And the world is now right because I'm on the right side of the screen. It's good. All is right in the world. But yes, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you again next week.